Hey guys, welcome to the channel. As you see in the thumbnail, what if Luffy ate all 4 god devil fruits part 1. Before I start, please do support for more awesome content and subscribe my channel and like this video. Go support the Batdoge for writing that awesome fanfic and also make sure to comment on this story link in the description. Let's start this video. Years ago, Fushia Village, Dawn Island. The Red Hairs pirates have taken to the pub within Fushia Village, taking the small village as a base of operations until further notice. Upon closer inspection, one could see a pair sitting directly at the back. This pair was one red-haired Shanks, a man with 3 scars across his left eye, some averagely loose brown pants, an untidy white shirt, and an overtly large black cloak shouldered over his back. While across from him was the young monkey D. Luffy, the very center of our story. "I'll be a great pirate. I have a punch like a pistol," Luffy exclaimed. The entire Red Hairs crew had a jolly laugh at that one. "Sure you do, Luffy, but you can't be a great pirate on just punches. You're much too young and you can't even swim," Shanks replied with a downward look from Luffy. "But I can learn to swim and I'm 7 years old." "That's definitely old, right?" Luffy questions. "No, it's not, it's quite young actually. Give it around 10 years before you even think of sailing off," Shanks retorted, causing Luffy to yet again look at the floor forlorn and depressed, as his situation was grave for him. Becoming a pirate this early in his life and thinking about it too much hurt his head way too much. So to rid his mind of such thoughts, Luffy looked around the bar, seeing all of Shanks' crewmates and thinking, "I'll definitely have a lot of nakama like Shanks." But as his head moved on, it found a treasure box directly to his left and brought his thinking to what might Shanks carry in a treasure box with him at all times, not even leaving it on the ship. But unfortunately for Luffy, that question would not be answered now because 1. It hurt his head too much to think about, and 2. A new visitor had arrived. "I see that the pirates have taken to the bar already," stated a large man with a goatee, black hair, and an X-shaped scar above his right eye. "You've got to have some rum left, so give me all that you've got." "I'm sorry, but we're all out of rum." This man here bought all we had left. "Makino, the barmaid, said, pointing at Shanks. "Ain't no big deal, Makino. I've only taken a sip, so if you want it you can have it, whoever you are," Shanks replied drunkenly. "Baguma, if you were wondering, but as if I'd take anything from a filthy pirate. In fact, why don't you and your crew get on your ship and leave and never come back?" Haguma answered angrily, smashing the bottle of rum all over Shanks' nice white shirt, staining it a horrid orange. "But why is the rum gone?" Shanks questioned, not knowing in his drunken stupor it was knocked out of his hands. "Oh ha 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 ha, nothing I can do about it now," finally noticing the spilled rum as Haguma leaves the bar angrily. "Sorry Makino, I'll clean it up later," Shanks said. "No, it's fine Shanks, I've got this," Makino replied. "Shanks, how could you let them do that to you? You could have easily kicked his butt." "No problem," Luffy angrily retorted. "And what would that have achieved, Luffy?" "I'll tell you, because we can't sit here for 3 days. What do you think?" "Nothing Luffy, nothing. Take it from me, a guy like that wasn't even worth fighting. All he had for anyone was insults. He'd never be a real fight. Truth be told, you can't win everything with just your fists. It's something you'll have to get through your thick skull sometime, Luffy," Shanks answered, but Luffy was not satisfied, and all of Shanks' talk made Luffy have to thinking, and all this thinking made Luffy hungry and curious. This led to Luffy opening the treasure chest, which for half a millisecond he thought, why wasn't it locked, but the other was infatuated by the fact that the box was filled with food which Luffy loved with all his heart and more. So as the story's been told 1,000 times, Luffy grabbed the weirdly angelically sounded fruit this time and shoved it into his mouth, and stress ate it so hard it went down in one gulp. "Shit. What was that sound? Where did the fruit go?" "Luffy, you need to tell me," Shanks asked questioningly, looking everywhere and even shaking Luffy after hearing the sound. "I ate it, Shanks. It tasted like barf covered in dog shit." "Why would you even have a fruit like that, Shanks?" Luffy questioned, looking ready to barf. "Luffy, you idiot, that was a devil fruit. You'll never be able to swim ever," Shanks said. "What? Now I'll never be a pirate, stupid fruit. All it does is takes away your ability to swim," Luffy fumed. "Well, not exactly. The devil fruits do also give you powers for your ability to be in water, but we didn't even know what that one was, and we probably never will now," Shanks explained. "Wow, wonder what my power is. Maybe it'll something cool like being able to shoot laser beams or become an awesome cyborg." "Pew. Pew. Pew," Luffy exclaimed. "Actually no Luffy, devil fruits don't work like that. There are actually 3 types of devil fruits: Paramecia, Zone, and Loja. Paramecias change how your body works and differ." Luffy was already bored and couldn't listen to the rest of his lecture and instead vested to do like his future brother and take a short power nap. "And that's how devil fruits work, Luffy. Luffy. Luffy." This final exclamation woke Luffy up from his short nap and vested his interest back onto Shanks. "You weren't listening, were you?" "Not at all," Luffy replied. "I'm gonna go back home. See you tomorrow, Shanks." "Luffy, you can't do that. You don't even know what could happen. You could be made of plasma, for gosh sakes." "I'm not reaching him, am I?" Shanks questioned. "Nope," everyone in the bar unisonly said. Days later, the bandits under control of Higuma came back to Small Village and had started to harass the people of the town yet again. But this time there was a lone boy fighting on his own turf waiting for the bandits right in the town square, and he said, "Fight me Higuma, I'm 10 times the man you'll ever be." The time after will not be described, as what Higuma did to Luffy should not be told to anyone anywhere for saying that or insulting Higuma in that way, and therefore has been censored, and we'll be moving on now. "Shanks, you need to save Luffy. He tried to fight Higuma in the town square, and oh, it's not looking pretty," Makino stated. "Right on my way," Shanks answered, rushing out of the bar to save their little buddy. "I suggest you let Luffy go Higuma before you get yourself hurt," Shanks said, looking at Luffy's bloodied body covered in weight. "What? Gold?" Actually, it seemed like the gold was the blood, and it was dripping out of Luffy's body, so his devil fruit might have something to do with that, Shanks whispered. "What are you going to do about it? You're just a filthy pirate who gets drunk all day. Like you could even save a bottle of rum from being broken on your own head. Why don't you do as I suggested earlier and get out of this town and leave it to me?" Higuma stated. "I'm just here for the boy Higuma, just leave, and you won't have to get rough and tough with us now, will you?" Shanks answered. "I'm done with this attack, man, and leave no survivors." Higuma scoffed as all his men ran toward Shanks' crew in a charge, but were suddenly bewildered as a stray tumbleweed crossed their paths, and they saw a figure of Yasopp, Shanks' best gunner, in a Wild West pose, and for a while all was still until Yasopp pulled out his musket in a quick draw and quickly shoots most of the men within a near instant, headshotting as many as possible, but killing all of them in an easy shot, and then pulling the musket to his leap and let out low breath, separating all the smoke left from his gunshots from the gun. "But where's Higuma?" Shanks questioned. "Leaving for the beach on a getaway vacation, I see," Yasopp replied. "Serves you right, brat. I mean, you almost got me killed today with all the racket you made." "I'll never attack a pirate again," Higuma stated loudly, as all that Luffy could do was groan as all the golden blood in his was leaking out surely and slowly, while also healing at an unprecedented rate. But at that same moment a sea king appeared and lowly growled at the raft they both had shared. "Aya!" Higuma screeched upon the horrid sight, while a moment later his scream was silenced like a wave crashing on a beach. His life had ended without much care from anyone anywhere. But that's not what mattered, as even more importantly the Sea King destroyed the raft, which meant that an end for Luffy seemed nigh. But all of a sudden there was a red flash, and all of a sudden Shanks was there, and he gave the monster a good fright with only one word: "Leave," and with that the monster vanished, but taking with him much more valuable than could be stated with words: Shanks' arm. A while later, "Goodbye, Shanks, but remember, next time I see you I'm gonna be an even better pirate than you, though I don't know what that is," Luffy said. "Well, the only thing better than me in the ranking system would be king of the pirates. Is that your goal, Luffy? If it is, I have something for you that I'm gonna hold you to giving back to me later, alright?" Shanks asked. "Yeah, I'll be king of the pirates with a crew just as great, no better than yours, and I'll be super strong, stronger than maybe that Whitebeard guy you were talking about," Luffy exclaimed. "Alright then, Luffy, if that's so, then I guess I'll be leaving this hat in your care until you can get to the Grand Line and give it back to me," Shanks stated, taking his own straw hat off of his head and plopping it on Luffy's in an almost perfect fit, but he'd grow into it. Looking back at Luffy as he left, he could almost feel that he was, along with the rest of the next generation, going to become great pirates as good as him maybe. But what was he thinking? Luffy might go get himself killed in a whirlpool before he could even get to the next island, but it was a price he was willing to put his stock in. That is the end of the prologue. Read and review if you so choose, and I will try to read all criticism, just for the fun of it. Also, as for Luffy's will be god powers, if you have suggestions please comment them and provide evidence from a holy book that a god used it, and it can be from literally any religion, even mostly dead ones like Greek, Roman mythology or Norse mythology, Shinto, Hindu, Buddhist, Christian, Muslim, and Chinese or more. Also work any power that these gods have displayed he will be able to use, so if you could provide evidence for each of these powers as well, that would be great. Has to be from a holy book or book accepted for that religion, stories or myths. I will also provide evidence or proof of the powers I'm describing if someone is confused as to how or what Luffy may have done using his new devil fruit. 10 years later, East Blue. It was a nice day, a bit cloudy, but one could really accept the clouds on a day like this, with all the blistering heat the sun giveth. But that is not why we are here today, or really why you're here today. Moving on. Sailing peacefully and unhindered, we find a simple cruise ship where due to the heat all the real passengers were under deck in the ballroom, but what really matters is what going on above deck, where we see two simple sailor men having a fine day, but sadly without any rum. But avast on the starboard bow there lies a barrel which, by hope of dear God, is filled with some alcohol to wash the day away, with so one of them sailors says to the other, "How much you wanna bet I can grapple that barrel there and get us some rum?" "I bet nothing, you suck at grappling," the other soldier replied. "Oh yeah," the sailor steamed as he threw a grapple at the barrel, but not only did he miss by around 5 meters, he was also around 10 whole meter back from it, as his throw was not strong enough to get the grapple that far. After this trifling failure a loud voice came from the mainmast with 4 words. "Wow, you suck, Jack." I mean I at least would have been able to throw it far enough to be close to the barrel, the voice said. All this fun was not unbeknownst to one Luffy, who sat laughing on his cloud high above of the failures of one Jack. Shishishishishi. I'd never have someone so bad as that Jack on my crew, all the while watching from his perch the ship of one Alvida, but not like he knew her or cared who it was, he just knew it was a pirate and wanted to watch just how pirates worked on his first day out on the sea, while also speaking to himself, I should really get a new boat sometime soon, that whirlpool was one wrecker, but this cloud ain't gonna stay comfy forever, and how am I gonna be a pirate without a boat? Also, how many crew should I have? I know I'll get 12. 12 sounds just about right. Yeah, 12, he said whilst laying his head back down on his cloud, hoping the cloud wouldn't move all the way to West Blue like last time, and he'd have to roll himself all the way back. Pirates. Pirates off the starboard bow. The voice said from the mainmast yet again after seeing the completely pink ship, which by the way kinda made it less scary, until he realized that a pink ship meant it was Alvida's ship. He could see it from the black flag, and they were doomed. Get on that ship and get me all the booty you can get, and don't leave until you've got me everything, Alvida screeched at her crew as they had started to board the opposing cruise ship. Especially you, Kobe, I better not see you on this ship again until you have a whole box of jewelry to enhance my great beauty. Alvida ordered, kicking Kobe all the way onto the other ship. Now's where the story gets interesting, you'd say, as Kobe searched the ship and found a barrel on the inside, but was soon surrounded by his fellow Alvida pirates surrounding the barrel, hoping it to be full of alcohol, like the before mentioned sailors of this cruise ship. Instead, inside they found a fruit like that, a grape, but with swirls and such all around, and it smelled nasty, and so as to quickly hide it, they shoved it into poor little Kobe's mouth. Due to the extreme stress of the day, Kobe ate said fruit accidentally and looked fit to barf right after due to the ensuing horrible taste, leading him straight out and onto the deck to empty his stomach of all of its belonging, despite the fruit already becoming one with the boy. Wow, that kid must be seasick or something, Luffy questioned from upon his perch in the sky, looking down on sad Kobe, who looked fit to pee his pants. Well, I guess I could help the poor lad, might lead to some fun or even a new boat. It's decided that kid's gonna get me my second boat. Luffy exclaimed, jumping off of his cloud onto the ship falling from the heaven but a little too fast as he went right through the poop deck and into the ballroom, smashing quite a bit of dancers, pirates, and sailors alike. It was now time for Luffy to show what he learned in those 10 years, both about his devil fruit and his own physical strength against these Alvida pirates, and in a spacious ballroom too. "Bet him he killed my buddy," many of the pirates said in unison, rushing towards Luffy. "Oh shit. Oh, sorry, I forgot about my powers, I'll get right to it," Luffy feigned fear for, but a moment before ducking under one man's swipe from the left to jumping back from another jab right to the gut, front and center. "That was close, guess I actually better try next time," Luffy joked, putting his hand on his head. Before poking a finger at each of the pirates surrounding him, he counted 7, but he was bad at counting and probably counted 1 twice. With this in mind, Luffy jumped right into the fray, literally. He jumped to the man right in front of him, leaving himself wide open until he struck with his fist so fast and hard it knocked the man out cold. The next two decided to do a dual attack by slicing at both his left side and his right respectively, but Luffy was ready and jumped onto the blades themselves and spun his arms around, pushing the men onto the floor. Despite not having the Gomu Gomu no Mi, Luffy still had quite lanky arms, you see, which he used to flip himself up around 10 meters away from the 5 men remaining. But while you probably want to hear more about that, I wanted to cut back to Kobe. Moving on, Kobe was still on deck when all of a sudden he heard Alvida's voice herself and started shaking as she walked towards Kobe and growled, "Kobe, didn't I tell you to be searching for jewelry to complete my set?" Whilst Kobe was trembling and had finally done the deed and peed his pants. "Why yes, Miss Alvida, why your diddle get right on that for you," Kobe squeaked, walking away slowly, hoping she would let this pass. "Kobe, this is the last straw, and to keep you from insubordination again, I'm gonna kill you." Alvida screamed, bringing down her large mace onto Kobe's head, except for the fact there was one slight problem: Kobe didn't feel anything. It was like being kid punched, despite the fact that that hit would have normally killed a man. This overjoyed Kobe to no end as he saw that he could defeat Alvida here and now, even take her to the Marines and become a Marine like he had always dreamed of doing. "No, Alvida, I'm going to kill you, and then I'll take your head back to the Marines and become a Marine myself," Kobe said, grinning with a new and exciting feeling of adrenaline at the fact Alvida couldn't hurt anymore, even though he didn't know how or why. With this newfound adrenaline, Kobe did a sweeping blow with his feet which in all circumstances shouldn't have hit Alvida due to her rot-on nature and Kobe's short kid legs, but it did, and the nature as to how it had revealed itself as Kobe saw his legs had grown threefold in one move. "If this is all a dream, it's the best dream I've ever had," Kobe screamed at the top of his lungs. Kobe then used his extended leg to pull to Alvida, hoping the downward motion would cause her to definitely feel his next punch right to her face, which it did, while also pushing both him and Alvida right into the ballroom with Luffy and the rest of what remained of Alvida's crew. "Hey, it's that kid I was gonna make get me a boat, how you doing, kid?" Luffy questioned. As Luffy questioned though a pirate came from behind to try to attack Luffy, but his sword was caught by what seemed to be an extra pair of hands and arms jutting from Luffy's shoulders, holding the blade in a praying position behind his back, while simultaneously the pirates was continually being punched in the gut by arms protruding from Luffy's pits. That's why you never sneak up on Monkey D. Luffy, kid. I have more arms than you have lives, Luffy proudly said, finally dropping the code man, and then flexed all 6 of his arms. At the sight of this, all the 4 pirates left dropped their weapons and walked away, cause they were not going to deal with that shit. I'll kill all of you if you don't come back there and beat him while I take out Kobe here. Alvida screamed. The display of Luffy's guns did not impress Kobe in the slightest, and with all that had gone on, he was certain this was a dream, no matter how much he wanted it to be reality. So with this new dream thought, he thought why not play the part and stated, I'll escape with you, but I'm not making you a boat. Just wait till I finish this fat bitch over here. It took a lot for Kobe to pull that out of his ass, as he was still somewhat scared of Alvida, but now not anymore, now he was his own man. I'll let you at her then, Luffy responded, retracting all his extra arms and sitting on some of the wreckage from earlier, while watching a weird redhead running away, but didn't try to stop her, as he thought he would run into her again. Kobe charged toward Alvida, keeping his arm back, hoping that his arm would grow like his leg had done earlier, which it did, allowing him to spring it back, causing such force to push her straight out of the ship and into the ocean, but not far, but that didn't matter, as a cannonball hit her straight on, probably instantly killing her. Shit. It's the Marines, we gotta run, Luffy shouted, grabbing Kobe's arm, which sadly stretched as he had grabbed it, and pulled him along, until he reached a rowboat which he broke, keeping it on the ship, dropping into the ocean, with Kobe ready to go on to their next adventure, which we all know what happens next. Hours later, finally docked at Shell Town. Thank God we had favorable winds, otherwise with your poor navigation skills, we would have been stuck at sea for days, and we could have died, Kobe said. But did we, Kobe? See, that's what's important. Now on to bigger questions. Wanna join my crew? Luffy asked, passing by a stall and giving the man a coin for the apple he took from the stall, which wasn't bad in any way to Luffy's tastes, if you were wondering. For the last time, no Luffy, I don't want to join your crew, I want to be a marine and hunt pirates like Alvida, Kobe answered while walking up the road with Luffy and hopefully to the marine base, so he could join before this dream ended. Ah, this is such a great dream, isn't it, Luffy? Kobe finally questioned to himself, except for the fact that a literal second later, he was pinched right on his arm by one notorious pirate. Luffy, what you do that for, Luffy? To prove this isn't a dream, you know, people say pinch me, I'm dreaming, but you weren't, so I pinched you. Luffy answered, you're real Homo sapiens Neanderthalus, aren't you? Kobe asked. Kobe, stop you using make-up words and start speaking English again. Luffy replied, finally getting to the marine base door with Kobe. You know, I do actually have another question for you, Kobe, and it has nothing to do with you joining my crew. Would you like to trade devil fruits? Luffy asked. What are you talking about, Luffy? I don't have devil fruit. Kobe replied. Yeah, you do, it's the thing that allows you to stretch your body, kinda like how mine allows me to grow extra arms, or well, that's just getting off point, but yeah, you do, Kobe. Luffy responded. Was it the fruit I ate today in the barrel? Will they allow me to become a marine? How will they kill me? Where could I run to? Kobe anxiously questioned. Mister, I don't think the Marines would kill you, even if you do have devil fruit. I mean, they haven't even killed Zorro, and he's being held here for at least a month, a little girl said, as she got close to our little crew before starting to scale the wall. As she tried scaling it, Luffy helped her up and even watched as she ran across the field to the man tied to a pole in the center of the field, which kinda looked like a shooting range. Upon closer inspection, this man was seen to have green hair, but at the current moment had a bandana over the most of his head. He also wore a dirty white shirt and some pretty average pants, but most impressive was his expansively large green belt. Like, wow, that thing was made to carry some swords, man. The little girl ran up to him and opened up a cloth she was holding, which held some average looking rice balls that she fed to Zorro slowly so as he could swallow all of them. Hey Kobe, I've got a good idea. Luffy whispered into Kobe's ear. Well, what is it, Luffy? Kobe questioned. Okay, so plan is I want that man on my crew, simple as that. I don't care what you say about him, I want him, and I always get what I want, Luffy said. You didn't get me. Kobe replied, but softly so as to not disturb Luffy or anger him. What was that? And never mind, so to do it, I'm gonna beat you up near his post while we run away, and you're gonna stay there, and when they ask you what happened, you're gonna say to them I tried my best to stop them, but they get away. I'd like to join the Marines, so that I can get stronger and someday catch them. Luffy said, getting ready for the plan. You know, that actually might work, Luffy. Let's do it on 3, 2, 1, go. Kobe said softly but loud enough for Luffy to hear. The pair jumped over the fence and were finally face to face with Zorro himself. Hi, I'm Monkey D. Luffy and I want you for my pirate crew, Luffy stated. No, 'twas all that Zorro had to say. But well, guess I'm gonna have to be more stern. "You will join my crew Arano," as Zoro Luffy said with the voice of 1,000 cracks of thunder. Yes was all he seemed to be able to pour out this time. "Yeah, I got my first crewmate, just wait, I'll get you untied and everything in just a bit. I'm gonna need my swords first." There in the marine base, Zoro finally softly and sorely retorted. "I'm on it, be right back," Zoro Luffy said as he walked straight to the base in the most happy and gleeful manner. You wouldn't believe Luffy had pulled a stunt like that at all. Going onward towards the marine base, he couldn't seem to find a door, so he instead chose to cause a small earthquake to open up a way into the base so that he could get to the swords, though he still did not know where the swords might be. At this thought, Luffy searched every room until he found a completely pink room with a sign saying "My Room." Upon entering the door to this room, he found 3 swords, each finely crafted, but he had seen better. And with the swords in tow, he jumped straight out the window and next to Zoro, to which he happily said, "I found your swords, now you'll join me," right, with the largest smile a man could have. And it turns out Kobe had already untied him, so they were all ready to set sail, except for one small thing. "Daddy. The prisoner is escaping," one purple-suited Helmeppo screeched at the top of his lungs straight up to the top of the base and straight to Captain Morgan's ears. At this such noise, he himself jumped off the top of the base and asked, "Now where do you think you're going, you three?" Kobe was now utterly scared shitless, while Zoro and Luffy prepared to have some fun with their new prey. "Wanna take axe hand together?" Luffy questioned. "Let's," was all Zoro replied as he started putting his third sword within his mouth, readying for the ensuing battle to come, as Luffy had already charged ahead. Luffy thought it might be fun to see if he could become a great swordsman like Zoro, so he summoned his own blade, the Kusanagi, to use in battle. Luffy started with an upward strike, but in horrible position like any untrained swordsman, and while his blade seemed to strike hard and true, it did little but cut the captain's coat and leave him open to a sweeping blow from the captain as Zoro started to come after Morgan as well. Once Zoro seemed close enough to himself, Morgan went for a downward strike with his axe hand, only to be caught by only a single of Zoro's blade, is left to be exact, and to any who thought Morgan might be a challenge, he was taken down in a singular strike to the ribs done from the flat edge of Zoro's right-handed blade, felling Morgan, but not killing him. "Yes, I'm not as good at swords as yours, Zoro, am I?" Luffy asked, getting up from the dirt a small while away from the backhanded push. "Shouldn't that hit'd break your ribs?" Zoro inquired. "I heal fast as long as I have meat," Luffy replied with 2 thumbs up. "Now we'll have to beat up Kobe to make it look like he fought us too, and then we can leave." With this one statement, Zoro slashed all over Kobe, but did not make so that he would die. But the stress might have well put him in a coma for at least a week, while Luffy had already started to jump the wall, knowing that all the soldiers at this compound would be grateful for Zoro's beatdown on the captain. Last time on our adventures, our 2 men had escaped from Shell City, but needed a new place to go, as their ultimate plan was to get to the Grand Line, the place where all the great pirates are, and where the true adventure begins. Well, yes, this definitely motivated the captain. Our new swordsman was not so motivated by this idea himself, constantly questioning why he was here on this boat with this boy, and continually answering himself with the same thought that this boy could go from 1 to 100 real quick, but at the same time showed little to no combat prowess, even being beaten back near 15 meter by axe hand Morgan in Shell Town, and this really scared Zoro, thinking that his captain seemed so weak and frail. But oh, was he wrong, as all Luffy was thinking about was the fact that his first crewmate was not a musician like he had wanted, but instead a simple swordsman, whom he didn't even know how skilled he was. But the act with Morgan definitely made him think twice about how weak his new crewmate was. "So, what's the plan from here on out, Cap?" Zoro questioned. "Simple, we're gonna get a crew and sail to the Grand Line. Oh, and you can call me Luffy, by the way," Luffy answered. "And how are we gonna do that, I mean Luffy?" Zoro questioned further, like that's the big idea, but how are we gonna get to it? "Think baby steps for me," Zoro explained. "Well, I hadn't thought about that, but we'll probably get to this next island sometime soon, maybe meet a new crewmate, hopefully it's a musician like I wanted, and keep going to the Grand Line," Luffy kind of answered. "Wait, how do you know we're getting close to another island?" "Oh, and you can call me Zoro," Zoro asked. "Okay Zoro, I know because I have control over the skies, the earth, and the seas. In fact, I can feel how close the next island is, and I have been guiding the ship in that direction, with the lull of the waves all this time, considering this boat doesn't even have a sail," Luffy answered, while Zoro's eyes seemed to be opened as to the fact of how truly powerful his captain was to control the skies, earth, and seas. He was pretty strong, and decided to just keep his mouth shut and listen, because he certainly wasn't going to guide this ship to the next island. Fact is, he'd probably lead it straight into Marajwa with all his navigation skills. That is until he notices one thing which seemed a little out of place. "Luffy, did you bring any food at all for us?" Or are you trying to starve me to death cause the only thing I've eaten today was that rice ball?" Zorro inquired. Shit, and I was gonna have so much meat." "Hold on Zorro, we're putting this boat on maximum overdrive. Keep your hands and arms in the boat at all times. The exits are nowhere, and we don't care how much you dislike this flight." Line liftoff in 3, 2, 1. Luffy shouted as a tsunami came up from behind them, and the wind seemed to pick up tenfold in that one moment, as if ready to pick up their entire ship. "Luffy, I think that's a little too much," Zorro shouted. "If there's one thing you learn from me Zorro, it's that enough is never enough," Luffy replied as the tsunami hit their small boat, pushing it at maximum speeds, and eventually pushing them straight into the air from which the boat was held with a steady stream of air, pushing the boat at speed, breaking 60 miles per hour for a goddamn rowboat. "Woohoo, this is so fun isn't it Zorro?" "No, this is not what I would define as fun," Zorro retorted, but it could barely be heard due to the G-force, as well as the wind whipping right through their hair, as if they were dogs looking out car door window. But with such speeds on such low-quality items comes an even bigger price than those overpriced low-quality item they tear apart, and this one especially so, and quickly too, for almost as soon as the boat was there it wasn't his first nails came out. Then wood ripped away and finally all that was left was two men looking as if they were flying through the sky right before their two bodies crashed into a building, and then the next one, and the next one, and the oh you get it, just imagine the destruction a buggy ball usually makes. Just have these two making purely due to walls, not being able to take that much force. "I will never do that again as long as I live," Luffy Zorro stated. "Okay Zorro, well you take a nap, I'm gonna go search around the city, see if there's anything interesting," Luffy said getting out of the rubble and starting around the town, hoping to find something interesting. While Luffy walked through the town in such a swagger manner arrogant as the dumb young man was Buggy, the clown had much bigger questions to answer about how nearly 5 buildings just crumbled without the use of any buggy balls or his direct action, and no viable proof as to what could have destroyed them. So as to not scare his crew to an extreme he sent extra crewmen, some of his best too, to search the area along with the men already sent to find the girl to slight their fears in hopes of telling them nothing really happened and it was just some leftover granados, at least he hoped so. But while Buggy was sending men, a certain ginger had seemingly gained interest in the newly destroyed buildings over that region of the town as well. I mean it's not every day that buildings just break down into pieces, at least not in East Blue it's not. So using her thief skills which she had gained over such a long time, she crept over to the wreck site and searched through it, hoping to find maybe some valuables that got loose out of the house. Cause I mean what are the people gonna care more about, that one diamond ring or their entire house, Nami deduced. But as she came across a particularly interesting diamond necklace in the wreckage, she was unfortunately spotted by around 8 of Buggy's crewmen this time instead of the usually 3, and as Nami knew she was not a fighter, especially against men with weirdly disturbing circus-themed weapons, she deduced yet again it was time to run, for it was elementary my dear Watson. 8 to 1 is not very good odds. As Nami kept running she ran past a young man in a red vest, some pants shorts, and a straw hat that just completed that look that he had, though she could not describe the look, and he'd do well enough for now. "If have any complaints with our customer service please take it up with my manager right here, but remember we don't take receipts or gift exchanges on any or all items," Nami shouted, running away while also pointing at our good friend Luffy and then hiding away in the rubble. "Wait a second," Luffy started. "If that's her boss then get him, and Hess probably also the person who destroyed those buildings earlier trying to scare us and everything," the self-asserted leader of this small band of Buggy's crew stated. At this the rest of the crew rallied behind this one man, raising the swords in the air before thinking through in their head how they were going to slice this man apart for what Nami had done to their captain. All the men charged at once toward Luffy, believing they could surround him and all do sideways slashes from all sides, leaving no way of escape. But this was all for naught as Luffy had dropped down to the ground as quick as he could, even he wasn't stupid enough to test 8 different weapons all coming at him. The moment all of the men found out Luffy was on the ground they all went for downward strikes, but yet again Luffy rolled away, having not even a single hit land upon him. "Now that you've all had your fun let me have mine," Luffy answered, and in a quick motion, Luffy seemed to look like he was powering up like in one of those fighter mangas, but as he kept powering up, nothing seemed to happen until a stray bolt of lightning came down from the clouds above, only to be grabbed by Luffy, and to then take the form of a bolt, a thunderbolt to be exact. "Let's play ball," Luffy shouted, seemingly getting into position to throw the bolt like a football, at which all of Buggy's men ran to hide in the rubble, but one slow and stupid one not knowing what to think and wanting to actually play ball. This was to this man's unfortunate doom, as an entire second later his body had become so singed it was blacker than the midnight sky, despite the fact he seemed to have survived the incident. But let it be said that lightning does not strike the same place twice, for within 2/3 moments, lightning had struck him dead upon the ground. The only hope left for him was that of the ability that Ash could still go to clown heaven. How could you do that? You just killed our friend, you can't just do that." the Buggy clown screamed. I just did, in fact I'd say he was properly smee Luffy tried. Smote Nami interjected, you were nowhere near the right answer kid. Hey, you called me your boss, would you do that? Luffy asked. Wait, you don't realize? I swindled you, I caught you when your guard was down and tricked you, Nami answered. That's mean, you shouldn't do it again, but I guess if you're a pirate that'd be alright. Luffy stated. Wait, you tricked us into battling this man which caused one of our men to die. Well you're getting it lady, the Buggy pirates asked, preparing for another battle, but this time with a different opponent. But that was all for naught. All Luffy decided to continue fighting, saying, I thought we were fighting, that means you fight with me, all 5 of you. Luffy stated. There's 7, Nami corrected. But it didn't matter to Luffy as he jumped right into the fray of things by quickly setting himself on fire. Well, I would not suggest doing this at home. Luffy is nearly immortal so it's fine, but remember you are not Luffy. Now that we have that cleared up, Luffy started running straight toward who seemed to be the self-asserted leader and attempted to punch him. Luffy's punch, you could say, fared well, as not only did it prove just how powerful he was by punching the man into the nearby building, his fiery punch melted through the man's blade, which he thought could protect him from the fury of a man denied his rightful fight. Of the remaining 6, now one holding a barbed mace, thought he might have a chance by lighting his own wooden mace on fire and hitting Luffy with it, as the fire did seem to be affecting Luffy, having it melt his body slowly. So the man chose to aim for a leg, hoping to break it, as well as light his own mace on fire. This failed horribly as Luffy did a roundhouse right to the man's chest, burning his nice clown clothes and forcing him to have to run to the sea. With only 6 left, Luffy decided to set the fire set on his own body out to fight the rest. I mean, where's the fun in fighting if the fighters won't fight back? I set myself off, so you can fight me back now, K. Luffy asked them, but his nearly melted off face looked as if he had become Two-Face, but with both dyes having started to melt off, as well as having parts of his skull showing, along with much of his ribs through his somehow still intact shirt. Turns out putting yourself on fire is an excellent way to burn through fat. Hey, when we're done with this can I have some meat cause I'm getting really hungry, Luffy stated, and with that last statement all 6 that were left charged, I mean that was their food, they weren't just gonna let some prick who lights himself on fire get all of their meat. Due to the calling of the meat which all 6 had felt, they almost all became 10 times more coordinated, as all of them moved in tandem to attack Luffy, but one had slid onto his knees to do an downward attack on Luffy, while 2 other went for rib level slashes like before, but expected him to dodge, while the last 2 did jump strikes onto his shoulders, meaning to cut off his escape with a combo. But none of this worked because all of them had hit Luffy exactly as they had planned, but something wasn't right, as some of them still used maces which would have easily broken any limb they attack, but instead this I wasn't fast enough to dodge those hits, I'll try better, as Luffy grinned wildly before the scariest thing to ever happen to them happened, as Luffy seemed to regrow his scarred and singed skin instantaneously before the crew's eyes, and there was no doubt that none of their attacks had done anything to him, anything at all, and almost all questions about his lack of trying were answered in that singular moment, and all the 6 men thought as their final thoughts were fuck as Luffy rushed towards them and easily knocked them out one by one. They had not even tried to fight back at that point, it had really just been a useless game for this kid, and he was having all the fun in the world. Well, that was the creepiest thing I've ever seen, but I think I could still have some use for you, Nami said. Oh, are we gonna play a game? Luffy asked. No, we're gonna steal everything the Buggy pirates have and then leave this island, Name answered. Well, that doesn't seem like as much fun, but I guess I could help, sure. Luffy agreed. All the while Nami thought, thank God I'll get even more gold and then I'll get to escape while he stays here with all these pirates and they can do whatever they want to him. And with that Nami tied up Luffy to be taken to Buggy all the way across town in his Orange Town base. Buggy, I brought my boss and your map back, with this I hope I can join your crew. Nami asked. Wait, you have a boss? Buggy asked. Why you know I mean I had a boss and I want a new one, Nami corrected herself. Well then welcome aboard Nami to the Buggy pirates. Buggy answered, showing her the buffet course he had planned, while telling 2 men to take Luffy into a cell to be kept in until later. While Buggy and the rest of his crew were eating the delicious buffet he had set out, Nami had taken to pickpocketing and looting all that was of Buggy's crew and treasure, and eventually guessing that the total amount she had gained that day was nearly 1,500,000 berry in all. That was all good and well, but then Nami was asked for directly by Buggy to shoot a personal favorite by Buggy himself, the Buggy ball. I wonder why. But the worst part, she had to shoot it at Luffy while in a caged box. Luffy, would this kill you? Nami asked. Matters, I've been able to survive pretty much anything but complete annihilation before, also don't I get a last meal before I die? Luffy questioned. How do you even know that word, and how would you know about that? Nami inquired. Well, my gramp said it a lot in the other one. I know all that there is to know about getting to eat meat. Luffy answered. No, you do not get to have a last meal. Buggy answered for Nami. Now get it over with. Oh, and Mr. Luffy, this Buggy is certainly patented to dematerialize all in its path for 200 yards last time I checked. All that was happening over there, but we need to know what Zorro was doing at the time, because he's definitely what's important. After Zorro had finished his nap he had found out quite a large amount of his ribs had been broken, not just like two. Like all of them plus small fractures in between each of the breaks because that's what happens when you go crashing through 5 buildings with no protection at all. But even better he felt that some of his blood vessels had rupture and he might just be having an ulcer, but that's something to be worried about another time when he did know where the hell his captain went, not like if he did it would help him much. So instead he sensed where that awesome blade he had seen Luffy pull out of thin air before went, cause Hess just so bad as he can sense his own swords, and even he isn't sure how or why. So well that's definitely important. What's more important is the fact that he went left despite feeling the sword to his right, and even he was wondering how he could pull that off, and decided he'd definitely have to start working at least a little bit on coordination. But what was he thinking? All he needed was more strength and skill to be the greatest swordsman. So he started turning around and eventually after a short while found his way to Buggy's base, but really more on accident than actually trying to find it. Yes, I found Luffy, and he seems like he might need my help, but who's this girl? She seems reluctant to shoot Luffy. Zorro queried which Nami was. I mean she'd stolen all of a man's life savings causing him to become homeless before and probably die from the winter coming soon, but she'd never physically killed someone before, no matter how horrible. And Luffy was really his own kind of special that she'd never seen before, so she couldn't really kill him, could she? Well, it's a good thing she'd never have to answer that question, because soon Zorro, the pirate hunter, appeared, but he did not do anything at all she thought he might for a pirate hunter, by going straight to the cannon, lifting it the other way around to be pointed at Buggy's crew, before saying, "You're either with us or you're against us," directly to Nami as Hit lit the flame to the cannon and started carrying the cage away from the destruction that was about to occur. In all that craziness Nami mentally thought, well, let's just end my suffering already, I'm going with Zorro. And all was good as most of Buggy's crew had become instantly dematerialized just as Buggy had said, but fortunately some had gotten away, but only some. Well, what's the plan now, Zorro? Nami asked, visibly tired. Well, a good idea might be to get Luffy out of this cage, but honestly I don't know if I can get him out, and why would I waste my swords to break stone? Zorro answered. Say Nami, why did I agree to this plan again? Luffy questioned. Because you thought it sounded fun, that's literally all it took to make you want to do it, Nami retorted. Well, if that's all you wanted to know, I suggest you shut up so I can keep moving this cage till it gets to a safer location. Zorro stated before being ran into by a small dog who yipped at them repeatedly, and all they could wonder was why. That was until a man came upon the three claiming them no harm to explain the situation to them. Well, you see, the only reason that dog's yipping at you is because you're kind of in its territory, which is all this area near the pet store and within the pet store. Oh, and I guess you might want to know me, I'm Boodles, the town mayor. Boodles explained. Yeah, don't care, move it on, we gotta get to safety like right now, Nami interjected. Well, I know where Boodles had started before being cut off by a lion coming out of nowhere, jumped all three of them and destroying Luffy's cage, allowing Luffy out. Unfortunately this caused the dog, Boodles, and Nami to run away, while Zorro just stood there almost looking glad because he didn't have to carry the cage everywhere. But of course that joy didn't last as the lion launched a paw directly at Zorro, which he didn't even care to dodge, which led to a great collision with a building. In fact, it was a certain pet store we had just learned about. Great job, Zorro, great job. Stop, sit down, and be calm were all that Luffy said directly to the lion, and to which the lion instantly did, not afraid of Luffy just acknowledging him. It was as easy as that. No, are you alright, Richie? Don't tell me the man scared you, did he? The man atop the lion asked. Moji, he is alright, I have not hurt him, plus why would I hurt such an adorable kitty? Like what was it? Oh yeah, Richie here. Luffy answered. I know, right, isn't he adorable? Wait, how do you know my name, and why am I not murdering you right now? Moji asked. I honestly don't know, I just have this weird ability to look at someone's face and instantly know their name, nor do I care how. Secondly, yeah, fight us, Luffy pleaded. What? No, I'm nothing without Richie here to help me, you'll just have to do without a battle from me, Moji responded. Well, that's good, one less baddie to worry about. Now how many are left other than you, Moji, is it? Zorro inquired, getting out of the rubble that was the former pet store. I'd never tell you, I mean I'm so much better than Kabaji, who also survived HMMPH. Moji answered. Well, that singles it down to you, this Kabaji, and most likely your captain. Am I missing anyone? Nami asked. How'd you guess all the survivors? Moji questioned. Honestly, I'm surrounded by complete and utter idiots. Nami screamed. Now then, guess it's time to go fight Buggy and get off this island, isn't Zorro, Nami? Luffy asked. Hey, I'm not with you. Nami shouted. Yeah, you are, I've decided you're gonna be our navigator. Luffy smiled back at her while walking to where he presumed Buggy to be. How'd you know I'd be navigator? Nami inquired. Well, the first thing you stole wasn't a golden necklace, was it? Luffy answered for her. Maybe you're not such an imbecile after all, Luffy. Nami pondered. What does imbecile mean, Nami? Luffy asked. I take it back, I take it all back. Nami answered as they all three walked into the presumed fighting range, where they would find Buggy and Kabaji. As they reached a suspected area they found both Buggy and Kabaji waiting there for them, as if they knew Moji was going to fail, and this had seemed to sadden most of the crew, seeing how little the captain cared about his own crew, especially one such as Moji, who would have to be high-ranking, as he did survive the blast which would have dematerialized him. Captain Buggy, in your honor may I dispatch of these thieves? Kabaji asked. Why certainly Kabaji, why would one such as Buggy himself get his hands dirty? Buggy asked, but this definitively made Luffy thoughtful because he always loved to fight, why wouldn't Buggy love to as well? I mean they were both captains, maybe it was because he was a clown, and Luffy knew clowns are only savage horrible creatures come from a galaxy far away to destroy Earth and take it for their own, and Buggy was certainly a clown of that he was certain. Zoro, you take the weird unicycle man, I'm taking this clown back to where he's from, Galaxy X Luffy stated. Fine by me. Zorro answered before getting ready for a true battle with this Kabaji man, or at least a harder battle than most of the others he'd had before, because of the fact his ribs were basically non-existent. With that thinking in mind, Zorro steeled himself for an extremely defensive battle, hoping to at least keep his insides inside. This of course led to Kabaji's first blow being directly blocked with ease, which easily told Zorro just how weak this man was, and that in truth, if he wasn't as injured as he was, he could be outright destroying this bloke, but sadly he was not and instead had to deal with fire being breathed onto his face by one of Kabaji's acrobatic arts. What the hell man, what was that? You just breathed fire on my face. How is that even an acrobatic art? You didn't trapeze over to me and attack with some sick flips, you just goddamn shot fire in my face. What kind of douchebag does that? Zorro ranted before getting back into position to block more strikes, but this time he wasn't gonna just sit there and let him use his bullshit on him anymore, he was going all out. Just as that battle had truly started, a new different battle had started with Luffy versus Buggy, and this was the true battle to display today, as both men stood at opposing ends of the streets, ready for either man to let down his guard. The tension was high, as Buggy seemed much more experienced as a fighter than one would have originally thought or guessed. At the moment Luffy seemed to lower his guard, Buggy released an arm cannon with as many blades on it as possible, but this was all for naught, because Luffy took all the blades straight to the stomach without a single flinch, for this was to be a battle of attrition. Before Buggy could pull his hand out of Luffy's gut, Luffy himself had grabbed it and dragged it across his stomach region, so as to create even more damage in terms of making a horrible open gash, which spewed out upon it Luffy's intestines and a large amount of blood before stating loudly, "Try it again, I dare you." The amount of pain tolerance this boy seemed to have was amazing, but even more so Buggy could clearly see Luffy was going to die and responded with, "Why would you do that? An injury like that would kill anyone." This conversation kept on, but Nami was both enamored and grossed out by a simple sight coming out of Luffy, pure liquid gold, and as far as she could see 100% 24 karat, but also extremely grossed out due to the intestine spilling out of Luffy, which in its own way was kind of disgusting, but also saddening knowing this kid was going to die shortly, even if somehow with that wound could beat Buggy. "I did it because it's part of my devil fruit, I don't know its name, but it gives me golden blood and allows me to heal from anything at all. Now watch this." Luffy shouted before letting loose his 4 extra arms from his body. He was ready to go all out, but it was just then that after Zorro and Kabaji's battle, there was a pause after Kabaji let out all of his spinners, to which Zorro blocked all of them with ease. Kabaji was now in the air and ready to strike downward and asked, "Captain Buggy, hold him down whilst I stab him." Gladly Buggy answered, shooting out a hand cannon towards Zorro, only to be caught by Luffy with another hand, except due to the extreme velocity and the knives upon this hand, it had stabbed right through Luffy's hand, to which Luffy replied, "The battle between two men is to be respected, Buggy, and you disrespected too, 1 by entering into Zorro's battle, and 2 by forgetting about ours whilst lunging towards Buggy, but with even more arms than before, as they seemed to just keep coming out and growing more and more, before it became too much to count, and by that point Luffy was upon Buggy and punching him straight to the everywhere as no matter how many parts Buggy could turn into, the expansive amount of arms Luffy had is too much for him, as Luffy screamed in a fit of battle, "Guanyan's 1,000 fists." Sending Buggy off way into off. Seems like Captain Buggy's been blasted off. Buggy screamed as he flew off into the distance, whilst Luffy just dropped his 2 hands to sit and watch the rest of Zorro's fight. All you had missed while Luffy blasted off Buggy was Kabaji raining from above, only to be blocked by Zorro's mouth blade, whilst Zorro put his other 2 blades in between his unicycle and slashed completely, making the unicycle unusable, which was exactly as Zorro wanted it. Now you'll have to fight me like a real swordsman, not some phony on a unicycle, Zorro flatly stated, but the answer he got was unexpected, as instead of getting ready for a real battle, Buggy saw the blasting of his captain and felt doom was imminent and instead chose to turn tail and run, and Zorro had surprise waiting for him, onigiri slashing all swords and cutting through Buggy, but through his back. As it turned out, Buggy was nowhere near a real swordsman even in his last moments before the sweet release of death. And with Buggy's death, Zorro sheathed his 3 blades, signifying the end of the Buggy pirates' reign on East Blue. Yay, now we can get some food, Zorro, just like we originally planned. Luffy shouted. Wait, you two came here to get food? Not to actually defeat Buggy's crew at all? Nami questioned, so beyond belief at this moment as was Boodle, who had seen everything that had just gone on and was almost more disbelieving. Well, if that's it, I'll lead you to some of our meat stores and you can take all you like. At least I'm pretty sure they'd be okay with it. I mean, it's better than a store being destroyed. Boodle told them all. Great, lead me to the meat, Luffy said, and me to the alcohol, Zorro said as well. Right this way, Boodle led whilst Nami searched for any other gold she could find upon the place before Luffy told her. You're coming with us too, as our new navigator, Nami. Bah, wait, how'd you know I'd be navigator? Nami wondered. Well, the first thing you stole from Buggy wasn't no diamond ring, was it? Last I remember it was a map. Luffy answered. Well, I'll be darned, it does have a working brain in there somewhere. Guess I'll come along for a while. I mean, there's no need to deny a free ride. Now let's raid this place and get out of here already, Captain. Nami went on and on. That was until they got to the meat store and the liquor store, and when they were done with it there was nothing left inside. There was also nothing left inside some other select places, one of them weirdly being a fruit and vegetable stand by Nami herself, knowing those two would just die of scurvy without her. Once all had been raided, they left their niceties as they went onto the docks and had a small argument on which boat they would take, but in the end they took Nami's stolen from Buggy's pirate small ship that they could use at least until they got onto the next island and could hopefully coax her to buy a larger boat. But for now the adventure ends with much healing for both Luffy and Zorro, mostly internally, but a definitively not food-lacking journey from here on out. Since last time all of our crewmates knew and from earlier that day, and yes, all of those things had happened in one day. From Alvida to Buggy, Luffy was almost a better pirate hunter than Zorro himself. And in fact Luffy was and is to continue this trend for around 3 more pirate captains until fighting 1 marine, and then back to pirates again for a little while, then a god, but that's going a little too far forward. Let's take a few steps back and see how their conversations are going. Are you two fully healed now, or do we need to wait another week for you to heal? Nami asked. I'm fine, my ribs have healed, and the blood is clotted enough, I should be able to fight, Zorro answered. I'm all healed too, Nami, Luffy exclaimed. Of course you are, you fully healed seconds after you launched Buggy into the sky. Nami screeched. Well, what if I was mentally healing? Luffy pouted. It requires a brain to mentally heal. Nami answered. That's mean, Nami, Luffy stated. Get used to it. Nami replied as they had finally gotten close to the island with seemingly huge cliff sides protecting the island and would definitely provide useful in ensuing battles, but not that Luffy cared at all. As the crew got closer to the island they were greeted with a loud and boisterous voice shouting, "You pirates, you better leave because I have 80 million men ready to crush you at any moment," and from the bushes upon the cliffside appeared a shadowed figure who none of our characters could tell who it was, but they could all but Luffy tell one thing. "Nami, I can't beat 80 million men, I can only get like 1,000 arms for like 5 minutes, that's way too much men for us," Luffy feared. Luffy, he's bluffing, I mean, could anyone fit 80 million men on an island that small? Nami answered. Well, he could have them camped underground. Zorro answered. You're not helping, Zorro, we need to dock, and now is not the time. Nami grumbled. What are you talking about? I definitely have 80 million men, I give up, I lied to you. The boy shouted back, coming into the light and finally showing his face to our crewmates. Oh, hey Usopp, we'd like to come on the island, don't worry, we're not here to pillage it, we're here to come buy a boat, right Nami? Luffy explained. Wait, how did you know my name? You shouldn't know that, you're just a pirate. Usopp shouted. I honestly don't know myself, it's kinda just that whenever I see someone's face I'm like, oh, it's that person, you know what I'm saying? Luffy asked. No, all three, Nami, Zorro, and Usopp replied, becoming more confused with this idea as time passed. But this thought process did not last long, as soon Luffy was docking the small boat they had and tying it to the dock horribly wrong, to which both Zorro and Nami had to put their minds together on how to fix the weird knot Luffy had made, as it certainly kept the boat onto the dock, but it would make it so the boat could never leave. That was until Zorro simply cut it off so as to not waste time, as Luffy seemed to be ready to raid the Syrup Village restaurant. Whilst they were walking, it was a godsend that Usopp decided to pay for their food at the restaurant, as to which they were going to probably go put out of business thanks to Luffy. Once the crew and the future crewmate Usopp were seated and had ordered, the real conversation started. So Usopp, any idea where we might gain a ship for my crewmates? Nami asked. But Nami, you're only temporary, you won't always be with us, you know. Zorro spoke. Not the point, now where might we gain a boat, Usopp? Nami asked. I've no idea, but if you were to get one, think you might want to add me. I always wanted to be a great sea warrior like my father before me. Usopp admirably told. Who was your father, Usopp? Luffy asked, genuinely interested in Usopp at the moment. His name was Yasopp and he sails the seas even today, I'm told. Usopp sighed, thinking of how cool his dad might be if he ever met him. I met your dad. Luffy said. What? Usopp screeched. Yasopp is one of Red Hair Shank's crew, he's his gunner, I remember the day he saved me. His pistol skills were like none I had ever seen, it was almost like he never took the gun out on all those bandits, his shots were so right and true, even as fast as all those shots were, it was amazing in truth. Luffy reminisced his days back at Fushia. Wow, I never knew my dad was so awesome, maybe that's why I have such a good shot. Usopp thought to himself, now truly wishing more than ever that he could see his dad, but thinking even more to be able to show his dad his amazing sharpshooting skills, which he'd have to gain in that time. Back to topic Afro, where do we get a ship then? Nami repeated, tapping him on the shoulder, scaring him out of his trance. Like I said before, there are no ships to gain here. Usopp states before realizing Zorro had pointed a finger at his or at least who he wished was his girlfriend's house, Kaya's mansion. Well, she's rich, but she certainly ain't got a ship for you, Usopp stated. That's okay, we'll just commission one from her and pay her back later. Luffy said. With what? Nami asked. Certainly not with my berries. No, we'll do some nice stuff for her, and she'll want to pay us back for us, don't you know, Nami? Luffy asked. Oh my god, you are a righteous idiot, no one would ever do that for us, we're goddamn pirates, and would you look at Zorro? Nami screamed at the pair of men, with her not noticing the fact that Usopp had slipped away to go see Kaya. That was until she did and knew where he went from his look from talking about the rich lady and knew to just go straight to her mansion, the boys would follow short behind. Syrup Village, Kaya's mansion. So one time I was fighting this god and for the first time ever I got out a gun and shot him with a bullet and it killed him, Usopp lied, especially since it was much more detailed in truth, but he didn't have time to tell the full story, but either way it seemed to cheer the sick girl, much more than some of his other stories cause he wasn't doing the usual. Oh come on Usopp, you've got much better stories than that, or make up a new one to tell me about your adventures, Kaya asked. What? You think I make these up? Surely not, I tell nothing but the truth. Usopp lied yet again, and seeing Kaya's beautiful smile yet again, it was all he needed to keep going every day. Ah well, if I must, I'll tell you of my own new adventure of today. Today I met some pirates, all from different places, some even hailed from lands owned by fishmen. With their help I went on to defeat a different pirate who had been secretly held here in our own Syrup Village. But I mostly dealt with their extremely large crew all by myself. It was a glorious battle to which I had turned out on top with no battle scars. Usopp told. Wow, and all in this morning, amazing Usopp. Kaya told. I know I am amazing, right? Usopp boasted, pumping up his chest in happiness, knowing of his own deeds, despite lying through his teeth about all of it. This was all fun and good before shit went down as Luffy, Zorro, and Nami came crashing down through the sky and right onto Usopp. Nami, remind me to never listen to any of Luffy's crazy schemes to get us anywhere fast ever again. Zorro squeaked out. I'm in the same boat as you here, Zorro, I will never try one of those schemes ever after this. Nami agreed. Oh come on guys, we made it, didn't we? Luffy asked. But how about in one piece? Nami questioned. We can't be in one piece, that would mean my journey would already be over, Nami. Luffy answered. Oh god, the headaches are coming back. Nami screamed. Could you kindly get off of me? Usopp finally screeched out from under the heap of human bodies. Oh my bad. All three replied to Usopp getting off of him to let him talk to Kaya before they were quickly interrupted by a man in a nice tuxedo, except for the stuff on it that looked like shit. Intruders, you should leave at once, Kaya is not fit for visitors and will need time for recovery. The butler said to them. She's been like this for years and she sees me every day, she's fine enough to see people, Clahitter, Usopp told. I'll remember the fact that you've been here every day, but for now you must leave, kids. Clahitter said. Fine Kuro, we'll leave for now, but we'll be back tomorrow because we need a boat, but for now we'll be gone. Luffy stated, walking off the premise of the mansion with three people following him outside, all waiting for tomorrow when they would see about getting a new ship and continuing their great adventures, but also needing some rest from the excitement of the day. At least Usopp needed to rest. Too bad he wouldn't get any. All the while Kaya thought, Kuro, where have I heard that? Oh shit, but Clahitter couldn't, but then again. Yep, Kaya was gonna plan for an attack on her life and as for now needed to go see Mary to plan for this so-called attack coming. Syrup Village, outskirts. Shit, that one boy and my entire cover is blown, I'll kill him, and I'll kill all of his small band of friends. I can't let something like this complicate all of my well-worked plans to go to waste, simply because a teenage boy said my name, with an extreme certainty that it seemed like he knew me. Fuck. Kuro rambled on. Django, we have to move the assassination. We can't wait any longer, it's going on today, no longer than this. I want my men on these shores in 2 hours, no later, and if you are a second late, we all know what will happen. I need you, Django, but once you become useless to me, you're dead. You are? Yes sir, Kuro, I will have the men here as fast as possible, there will be no delays, I assure you. Django replied, scared shitless, knowing his fate to be, but even he couldn't escape from the notorious Captain Kuro. Yep, Django was fucked no matter what option he chose, it was a complete lose-lose situation, there was no winning for this hypnotist. Lucky for everyone else, both Luffy and Usopp had heard as they had come to the cliffside earlier, trying to find time to talk more about Usopp before being rudely interrupted by some much wanted and needed information that would lead to the death of Kuro. Later that day, 2 hours ago, our protagonist learned of an assassination attempt on Kaya's life and decided to help out, so they first went back to the crew to discuss what to do next and figured that the Black Cat Pirates crew would most likely, if they were smart, come from the south, especially if they needed to get here in as little time as possible. 2 hours, Kuro had said, but just to make sure they had set that Luffy would protect the north as well as Nami's precious treasure, whilst they dealt with the Black Cat Pirates, Nami, Zorro, and Usopp should definitely be enough, right? So as they waited, Usopp had placed traps all along the slope, such as slippery oil, caltrops and maybe a mine or two, but that was if the pirates were really that stupid, as well as a few of Usopp's own theatrical tricks he left up his sleeve to use on the pirates. Once the time had finally come, the Black Cat Pirates did come to the south, just as Usopp had predicted, especially out of fear for both their lives and for time to save their lives. This was not lost unto Usopp, but Usopp really wanted to show them what courage was despite having none of his own. Hey you pirates, you better leave cause I've got an army of 80 million with your names on their swords, are you ready? Usopp asked, shaking in his boots as he did not expect anywhere near this many pirates to be coming, but it was okay, he could handle this, he was man enough to beat a few pirates, especially if it involved Syrup Village. You think we're gonna fall for that, you idiot? All the pirates screamed back except for Django, who actually seemed to believe it or something despite all the bullshit surrounding it. Then I guess I have no choice, Usopp stated, bringing out a remote control looking thing and pressing a singular button. This button released fireworks straight from the south docks themselves straight at some of the pirates, while also creating a really pretty light show, despite a large amount of the colors being red. Despite how Usopp said he used mainly green and purple fireworks, he thought red wouldn't look as cool, and this was obviously correct as there were still many men left afterwards, though also covered in a seemingly red liquid that was also pouring from the lack of head some of the pirates had. It was at that moment that Usopp realized his plan had killed people, and that it was bound to kill more, no matter how hard he might have tried to stop it from doing, so it was doomed to murder. But this was fine with Usopp, it even filled him with pride, though this pride might not be for the best. I mean, if pride led you to be a psychopath later on, would you like it? The correct answer is no, but Usopp didn't have a choice, and he was sure reveling in the bloodlust this battle was giving him. While Usopp's traps were working to stop some of them and the oil and caltrop stopped most of the others, some had gotten to the top, only to be greeted by some blades, 3 to be exact, and Zorros to be sure. This method led to many a death of the Black Cats, but they were not done yet. The thought of Kuro still egged them on to continual fighting, even if the odds were somehow against them. Despite clear numbers advantages, it appears high ground does usually lead to victory. As this was all going on, Django's mind had to think of hundreds of different scenarios to get him and Kuro's crew out of this field of death. They in truth did not have enough soldiers to win a D-Day type battle, plus he could not stand walls of bodies. So it was near decided for him when he thought he must hypnotize all the men to believe they had gotten stronger. It was the only way. Everyone look at me, I must hypnotize you to make you stronger. We must win this battle, for Kuro, for our lives. Django screeched, turning to them all and shouting 1, 2, Django. Swinging his pendulum affecting all his men, even him. Unfortunately it had also affected all of the future Straw Hats. This was just one awful day for the Black Cats. But fortunately a saving but fleeting grace quickly came in the form of Sham and Bucci, the Cat brothers. Now why would such a thing be such a fleeting hope? Because of landmines, that's how. Fortunately for Zorro, the cats imploded from the bottom of their feet, bursting the two into flame as the explosion and dust rose high into the sky, revealing what was left of the two's corpses, and they were not pretty sights if I do say so myself, with an intestine over there, and one of them looked like it had 2 livers, though one had burst and the other looked plumb next to the other, whilst the corpses still let out an extreme amount of blood even after the heat of the explosives. This death led to a few moments of silence as all were shocked before easily and simply all the Black Cats fell upon their knees and wept, as well as some even tried putting guns to their heads. There was no surviving for them, none at all, and they knew it, and this was the only way out. The rest decided that they should instead mutiny the ship from Django, as it would be a more profitable battle than this one, despite the fact that Django himself had joined them in unlatching the ship, readying it for sail, only to try and run and hide from this island, to never come back to it ever again. A lol in good fun. Hours ago Luffy had set out to be at the North Dock so as to be ready in case they came from that dock, which as we both know from this point they did not and instead were beaten. But that is not to say that Luffy did not have anything interesting happen to him whilst at the North Docks, not at all. First you must know that Luffy nearly instantly became bored and so quickly turned himself into a kitten so as to gain the nap of a lifetime, like how kittens and cats are found to do, and by that I mean goddamn sleep all the time. So that went on for around 2 hours before our main antagonist Captain Kuro himself left for to see that they had come to the North Dock like he had planned despite the time delays. He was of course like always with his crew wrong and pissed off and needed to kill something for it, especially now with anger seething through his bones. This led him to retaliate that pure destructive anger on the first thing that he saw. Unfortunately for him that thing was a kitten that was just waking up from its nap, mostly due to the loud noises of Kuro's anger, and we all know never to wake a cat from its nap, Kuro especially. As Kuro came to slash at the kitten seemed to disappear, and then there was a sharp pain in the back of his neck, as though something had kicked him but not hard, and as it turns out that thing was a kitten. So as in another retaliating move he slashed again only to have the kitten climb each of his blades from the backside, so as not to injure its claws before spinning its body, so as to deliver a kick using its tail. The tailspin was not connected by a kitten though, but instead by a full-grown monkey which had all but confused Kuro even more. Kuro did not have time for this battle, so he planned for a final hit by charging toward the now monkey in a stabbing movement with his gloves, only to miss as he was aiming for the body of a 2-foot-tall monkey, not a near 6-foot-tall young man with a fist lodged into his gut, causing a reaction within Kuro to spittle blood from his mouth and ride onto the young adult he recognized as the boy who ruined his plan earlier with a singular word. Luffy pulled out his fist now covered in saliva and blood ready for the battle to continue, but he still had one thing to say. My punches are like bullets with resounding confidence as he moved into a fighting form for the next part of the fight. Kuro could now tell that this boy was a devil fruit user and a seemingly rather dangerous one at that, as well as determining from current data, he was a most likely his own type user of some sort. He knew he had to go all out now and defeat this kid before he ruined even more of his plans, so he stomped his feet and went as fast as he possibly could and slashed as much as possible. This ultimately led to nothing as Luffy had grabbed his face with one palm and drove it straight into the ground for maximum damage, stating this time my sandals allow me to go at speeds you couldn't even imagine. I could beat death in a race if I felt like it. This one statement scared Kuro to his very bones, realizing there was something out there even faster than he was, and even faster than he was, fast enough to race death even. This did not matter to Kuro though he was so close to his goal he could taste it, and he was not letting a simple child stop him from 3 years of work, not now, not ever. Kuro planned to yet again put everything he had into this final hit, no matter if it nearly killed him, he could kill everyone else in the city with ease, he only needed to kill this one boy. Though Luffy was just stronger as he yet again caught Kuro, put this time throwing him with all his strength into the stone wall, thoroughly breaking every bone Kuro had to offer, severing his spinal cord, but leaving his corpse there as if standing so it could rot in defiance, just like the master of its body was before death. Seems Kuro was not fast enough to race fast death, he could never truly even keep up. This all led to everyone meeting back at Kaya's mansion thoroughly decked out and ready for war if needed, but especially not even required right now. The battle was over, and the good guys, if you could call them that, had won. Kaya, we did it, we beat the Black Cat pirates back. Usopp shouted, knowing she would take it as a lie. But I thought we were gonna have to war for the town. No, is this one of your lies? Kaya asked. Nope, it was all of us, we battled the pirates and won mostly because of him though, Kaya. Zoro answered. Then where's your captain? Kaya questioned. Right here, just had some pile of Kuro to take to the street. Luffy called. I guess you didn't lie about all you did today earlier, Usopp. Weird, one of your lies became a prediction. Weird. Kaya inquired. So now that we've done something nice for you, will you help us out? All we want is a boat. Oh yeah, and Usopp. Luffy told. Sure, we've already got a boat, we just never get to use it. But I don't know about Usopp. Mary answered for Kaya, stepping out to join the conversation. Yes, exactly what Mary said, her name is the Going Mary, and I bet she's very glad to meet you. And so what do you think, Usopp? Do you want to join them? Kaya asked. Well, I'd love to stay and protect you, but at the same time I always wanted to become a great warrior of the sea like my dad. Usopp stated. Then go where your heart takes you. If we need a good strong helper back, we'll call for all of you and you'll come running, right? Kaya asked of them all. Definitely, we all care about East Blue and we'd never give up on it, never in a lifetime. Luffy answered for them all. Now come on, Usopp, I want to get to Lode Town by at least next week, now let's move it. Fine, Luffy, but I'm captain. Usopp shouted, only to lead to many hijinks later upon the open sea, but those are stories for a later time. For now our journey is at a close. Thanks for watching this video. If you really enjoy this video, like, subscribe, and comment down below, and turn on that bell notification. Don't forget to support the Batdoge for writing that awesome fanfic and also make sure to comment on this story link in the description. See you in the next video. Goodbye.